And if I don't got enough in the tank, man. It is Personal Foul Sports. I am Andrew McLean, hanging out with you right here on WDNG. Thank you so much for joining us. On the phone right now, we have a friend of mine, Keith McNabb. He's the host of the Big Orange Podcast and Tennessee Football News on Facebook. Keith, how you doing this morning, my friend?
Pretty good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I know a lot of stuff going on right now in college football, especially the SEC. It's very exciting to keep up with because we have to keep ourselves so occupied until kickoff, is recruiting. And what's happened in Tennessee over the past year with recruiting has been absolutely amazing, something that people in Knoxville are not exactly used to. A lot of good players coming in. You've got the addition of people like Jalen Hurd, Josh Malone, even Marquez North and some of these other guys that's got that fan base very excited. What are you seeing up that way?
Well, a lot of interesting things right now with the addition to all these new guys, and the fact that we had 14 early enrollees is a big deal for us right now because of the state of the program and being able to get all these guys in so early. It's going to help the program a lot. And we just now had the rest of the guys show up in this huge class that we got this past year. So to get these guys in and start working out and start looking at the playbook and everything with the coaches, I think it's going to be a big help for us. And Butch Jones and his staff right now is continuing that recruiting process for next year.
Right. Well, the whole thing with the Tennessee job, and they asked Butch Jones when he got there, they're like, hey, everybody's saying nobody wants this job. And I think his quote was, when do I start?
Exactly.
He dove in head first, and he's done a marvelous job, a better job than I think most people gave him credit for coming in. Everybody was saying, who's Butch Jones? He's the coach of Cincinnati. Nobody looks at Cincinnati for a coach. That's crazy. But it's been amazing to see the turnaround. We haven't really seen the fruits of the labor, so to speak, just yet, with the exception of last year with them beating South Carolina, who was number 11 at the time, if I'm not mistaken, which was a big deal after 4 or 5 years without beating a ranked team.
Right. And then one of the really neat things with Butch Jones is his approach to recruiting. These guys, I know a couple of former players who are friends of mine, and they talk about how when they went over there and talked to Butch Jones that first time, a lot of coaches, they somewhat dread the recruiting process because it's strenuous. These coaches are on the road during these down times and continuously in and out, away from their families. But these coaches really love the recruiting process. They were in Knoxville when they first got here, and they were meeting some of the former players, and the coaches were crazy to get back out on the road. And I think in today's time and in recruiting, that's the kind of approach that you have to have for these young high school kids.
Right. Well, it's funny because I follow all these guys on Twitter. I try to follow all the SEC coaches and even the assistant coaches. And every time you can tell when somebody's on campus or certain coaches are talking to the kid, because Twitter will suggest if you've got 2 or more followers or 2 or more people you're following, follow someone else, it'll say, this person just followed this person, and it's like a high school recruit. You're like, okay, well, this guy's obviously on campus this weekend or whatever. It's just kind of the day and age we're in with Twitter. It's just amazing that you can keep up with stuff like that. But for people that are Tennessee fans out there, which, don't get me wrong, they're few and far between on this side of town, your Facebook page is absolutely amazing with how you keep up. I look at it sometimes and I'm like, how in the world is this guy getting some of this information? Because as soon as it happens, you're posting it. I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah, it's fun for me. I really do enjoy it. One of the things is just I try my best to not let my personal opinions come into anything that I post. Yeah. I try to post nothing but facts. And following the right people and knowing the right people is key to when you're doing this. It's funny because the page started out as I was posting this information on my personal Facebook page. And of course, we're not all. I'm not friends with all Tennessee fans, and some people were, saying, "Hey, man, come on, we don't want to hear all this." So I created a page. I invited my friends that were Tennessee fans, and within 2 or 3 weeks, I had 3,000 and 4,000 people follow the page, and now we're up to right at 14,000 people.
Right. Yeah, I know the struggle because I've tried to do this radio thing without giving my opinion and just putting the facts out there, and it just didn't work out. I can't keep my mouth shut. So, but you've got a little bit of an inside track too. You've developed somewhat of a friendship with Eric Ainge and Jason Swain and some of these other guys that work at Tennessee Sports Radio there in Knoxville, which has got to be extremely cool.
It really is. It was a really neat experience for me, becoming friends with these guys, Jason Swain and Eric Ainge and Chris Tree, some of the former players who are now doing radio shows for Tennessee Sports Radio. Like I told you yesterday when we were on the phone, I was just driving through Knoxville one day. I was heading to South Carolina, and I sent Jason Swain a tweet saying, "Hey, man, can I stop by the studio and meet you guys?" He said, "Hey, we're heading to lunch. Come out to Moe's, and I'll buy your lunch." Sat down and just started talking to the guys and ended up meeting them and building a relationship there where we kind of, I helped those guys out by posting stuff, and they kind of helped me out with some other things.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. I wanted to also ask you about Quentin Dormady, who Tennessee just picked up. He's a 3-star prospect, give or take, whatever site you look at, that Butch Jones has brought in. This is amidst all the hype surrounding Torrance Gibson, who has put Tennessee at the top of his list, last I read, as far as schools that he wants to sign with. I believe is Tennessee and Auburn are at the top of the list right now. How does that affect Tennessee bringing in this Quentin Dormady as far as the race to get the dual-threat quarterback, Torrance Gibson?
Well, Quentin, his commitment was nice at the time. A very, very good kid, very smart. As far as throwing the ball, I think he is one of the better quarterbacks that we had on our list. As far as how will it affect Torrance Gibson, I really don't know that it will. Torrance Gibson's recruiting has been something I have never seen in the recruiting process before, because he's put himself out there. He's went back and forth between Tennessee and Auburn 2 or 3 different times. One week it's Tennessee's my leader, the next week Auburn's my leader. And to be honest with you, my feelings on it are it really depends on who shows him more love that week.
Right.
So, I don't really know how I feel. Torrance is an excellent quarterback. He's a dual-threat quarterback who really can move. And I think his talents would be great in Knoxville. I just don't know how I feel about how he's handled his recruitment. As far as Quentin's commitment, will it put any pressure on Torrance to commit any sooner than what he wants? I don't think it will, because I think Torrance is enjoying this recruiting process a little too much. Right.
Yeah, he's got to be soaking it up. And, at the same time, I almost feel his pain because he's a very impressionable young guy that, is getting 5-star treatment at every school he goes to, and they're making him feel like he's the best in the world. So it's hard to leave Knoxville and say, you guys aren't at the top of my list, or leave Auburn and tell them that they're not at the top of your list after they've, treated you like royalty all weekend. So
right.
It seems like it would be, obviously I would know nothing about that, but it seems like it would be very tough to deal with. Even with the quarterback stuff going on, Riley Ferguson just left the program there at Tennessee. He was a stable of 4 quarterbacks, is that right?
Yeah, well, once Riley left, now we're down to 3.
Down to 3. Josh Dobbs, Justin Worley, and who's our other guy? I can't even think.
Nathan Peterman.
Nathan Peterman. And so what was any insight on why Ferguson left? I was assuming it had to do something with the starting position was looking further away, and he was just going to transfer to where his brother played or something along those lines? Yeah,
over in South Carolina. As far as Riley, Riley is one of those guys who has all the talent in the world. Riley could very easily be the starting quarterback coming up next season. It's just a matter of whether you're willing to put in the work or not.
Right.
I think, Riley went through high school and never lost a football game. He was one of those guys, I think, in the end that just felt like things needed to be handed to him because of what he's done in the past. And sometimes these guys don't understand that once you step on campus, you've done nothing. You know, what you did in high school doesn't mean anything anymore, and you still have to put in that work.
Right.
So I really think it was a part of the work ethic aspect that what ended up making Riley make that decision to leave.
Well, with that being said, everybody's wondering who is going to get the starting position, who's got the head start, or who's got the foot up on that.
Right now, I think that we don't have any other choice than to go with Justin Worley. You've seen during the offseason that both Justin Worley and Josh Dobbs have went out to work with quarterback guru. His name escapes me right now, but out in California. Both quarterbacks have put in a lot of work, but I think for the experience and leadership qualities that Justin Worley has right now, that I think we're going to go that route now. Who ends up being the starting quarterback by the end of the season, I think only time will tell, and through the season and the process, whether, whatever happens. But I think that first game you're going to see Justin Worley take the field.
Yeah, I believe so, too. I don't think Justin Worley's gotten enough credit just because of the outcome, the numbers at the end of the season, the win-loss record. But as long as he's healthy, he seems like a fantastic player. And with the receiving corps that will be returning and coming up, I don't see how you could go wrong with Justin Worley. Last thing I wanted to ask you about, this whole Jansen Jackson thing. Jansen Jackson, he was supposed to be the next Eric Berry. He was a very, very skilled player brought in by Alabama's very own Lane Kiffin in the 2009 season. He's hemmed up on murder charges for apparently murdering his mother's boyfriend. What do you know about this story?
Well, I think the last thing that came out, and I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, was that he used a telephone cord or something during that. As far as Jansen, I think this is Jansen is a completely different person on the field and was back then. He was kind of a two-personality type of guy, and I think this story coming out kind of puts some closure on the confusion that a lot of Tennessee fans had with Jansen, because he one day just up and left. He had some troubles while he was on campus, and I think everybody was just so confused at the time of why he ended up leaving the program, because he, on the field, he was a great player, good attitude, and was showing some leadership while he was here on campus. But more importantly, I hope things have changed for Lane Kiffin now. But this is really a statement as to what type of player that he was recruiting at the time.
Right.
They were very high talented players, but not, as far as personality-wise, there was some question marks on some of the guys he brought in with Jansen and people like Nukees Richardson, who ended up leaving the program.
Right, yeah, that's something you've got to, and coaches know this, you've got to evaluate not only their talent but their personality when putting together a team. I can't imagine that Nick Saban's going to allow Lane Kiffin to bring in people like that, but I look at Lane Kiffin is almost sort of a virus that could bring the best of teams down. So I worry about that. He's got a surprisingly warm reception since he's been at Alabama, which absolutely shocked me because everybody across the board hated Lane Kiffin for the past 5 years, and now the tone's changed. But that's what college football will do to you. I guess it would be like Urban Meyer going to Knoxville and joining Butch Jones' staff. It may sting a little at first, but everybody would be on board in a matter of weeks. So
yeah, the opinions tend to change once a certain coach puts on your colors. So.
That's exactly right. Well, hey, Keith, we appreciate you taking the time. Real quick, give us the info where everybody can find you if they want to check your stuff out.
Okay, you can go follow the page at facebook.com/Tennessee Football News. Everything will be posted there, including the podcast.
Okay, and a Big Orange Podcast, you're the host of that, and they can find it right there on the Facebook page.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, Keith, we'll talk to you again soon. I appreciate you taking the time out today to talk to us.
No problem, man. Thanks.
All right, my man. Take care. That's Keith McNabb from Big Orange Podcast and Facebook, the Tennessee Football News Facebook. So really appreciate that. Very interesting stuff going on up there. No matter what your team, who your team is, you always like to see SEC teams that have a rich tradition like Tennessee, have a winning history like that, come back from being down for so long, for 4 and 5 years, and kind of come back and get in the mix. You always want all teams to be in the mix. It just makes for better competition and better football in general. So thanks again. We'll be right back with more Personal Foul Sports. Hang tight.